Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Book Reviews by Aditya. Today we are going to review this book, Munich by Robert Harris. It is based on I came across this book through a movie actually, basically. So before going any further, I on this channel we review books on history, politics, society, culture, literature, fiction, basically. So if you enjoy discovering newer books, which actually we almost start reading books on, honestly this is my opinion. So we must start reading books. We would should give more time to books, basically. So if you enjoy discovering newer books that bring history to life, or talk about general issues, so please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you enjoy this review, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, so that uh, let me know your thoughts on this book in the comments. So without further ado, let's dive into this. So this book is basically about based on the 1930. The main premise is the 1938 agreement between four world powers at that time: Britain, France, Nazi Germany, and fascist Italy. So uh, this it's based on the Munich Conference. So in that, four leaders came together to prevent a war at that time. Basically, Hitler wanted to occupy a particular part of Czechoslovakia called Sudetenland. His argument was that portion has majority Germans, so that region should come to Germany, basically. And he wanted to attack them, and France had a commitment with Czechoslovakia that if they are attacked, France is going to defend them, and Britain will also come with France, basically. So the World War would have started like a year back, basically in 1938. So to prevent that, this conference was held, and as a result of this conference, that Sudetenland basically was given away to Czechoslovakia, was given away to Germany, basically. So it was basically four leaders, and it had Europe's future was at stake. And basically, it was one of the most important diplomatic meetings of that time. But it also inspired this really good historical thriller. So, talking about this book, it is set in September 1938. So, Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, France's Premier Edouard Daladier. Sorry for the if the pronunciation is not correct. Italy's dictator Benito Mussolini and Germany's dictator Adolf Hitler, they came together for this agreement to decide the fate of Czechoslovakia. And basically, if I talk about this book, it has a very interesting approach. Uh, it mixes history with fiction, and along with the agreement, it mixes basically another story of two people. One is a British citizen. He's working in Neville Chamberlain's government. He is the principal private secretary, one of Chamberlain's private secretary. His name was Hugh Legat, and the other person was Paul von Hartmann. He was a German diplomat, but he was also part of the anti-Hitler resistance. So this book tries to tie up a story. It goes back to 1932, basically, when these two people were studying together at Oxford, and that's how they became friends. And from there, this British person Legat, he visits Germany Germany, to meet his friend, and there they argue about their political beliefs. The German guy prefers Hitler coming to power in at that time, but the British person was against it. So they developed a really big tiff, and after that they weren't really talking to each other. But interestingly, both of them end up in the government, in their respective countries' governments, after graduating from Oxford. And basically, now they come together again in a way to prevent Hitler, basically, from doing what he wanted to do, which was not just to, as we all know, not just to occupy Czechoslovakia, but to start a world war and spread his Nazi ideology throughout the world, which failed. Otherwise, the world would have been a really horrible place, honestly. So basically, this German guy, he becomes disillusioned with Hitler, and later on starts his becomes a part of the anti-Hitler resistance. So with the stakes are so high and in this agreement, so it basically lays out the premise. So it starts off with what Hitler was planning to do at that time, and how the British somehow prevented Hitler from making that agreement, from not making the agreement, from going to war. And then they took the help of the Italians as well. And from there, the conference became a reality, and what the conference was about. And in that, the premise here is that the German guy, he comes across a document. Basically, it was the minutes of a meeting that Hitler had held with his senior commanders, in which he commits himself to a war of acquisition, which means to occupy all of Europe. And his argument was that Germany was a very, very tightly packed country, so he needed more space, so he wanted to occupy more countries. At that time, he was saying that before this Munich Agreement took place, Hitler had already occupied Austria. So, and his argument was that after he occupies that Sudeten land, he won't go any further. But that was obviously a lie. So, his argument in the meeting, the minutes of the meeting, basically. So I don't know if that meeting actually took place or not. There are some opinions say that it took place, some are not so sure. But uh, in that meeting, basically his agenda was that to sustain his war economy, basically, and to build more forces and to occupy the entire world, in a way, to occupy first Europe and then the entire world. He needed more countries, more resources. So that's why he wanted to occupy as many countries as possible. So one good thing about this book was that it did not approach this subject just as a historical event. It added fiction in it. Obviously, not everything can be true, but I mean the general premise is actually. So it's actually a very, very interesting read. If you like historical fiction, I would recommend you to buy this book. If you want to watch the movie as well, go ahead. The movie's name is Munich: The Edge of War. It's on Netflix. I think so. It's still on Netflix. It's on Netflix India. I don't know about other places. So, and yeah, so there is a lot of divergence between the book and the movie. First of all, since the book is almost like 380 odd, 300, let me just check, some 340 pages long, and the movie is just 2 hours. So obviously there were a lot of parts that were cut, compressed as well. So but there were some uh, there were divergences between the book and the movie as well. So, for example, if I give you one example, in the movie it's shown as all the four powers come together and they decide the fate of Czechoslovakia, and no one from, and they haven't shown anyone from Czechoslovakia, basically, or from Sudetenland. But in the movie, sorry, in the book, that's there. It shows the two Czech diplomats who had come to Munich, but they were like, I won't say imprisoned, but they were like held by the Nazi Germans, their basically their police, and they were captured, basically, and they were at the hotel, and the British guys were trying to talk to them and everything. So, but at that time, the fate of Sudetenland was decided that it will go to Nazi Germany, just to prevent the war. So basically, so yeah, this book, uh, basically it's actually a very interesting read, in the sense that it lays down the entire premise, and it is, I think so, a bit uh, pro. I won't say the book is pro Chamberlain, but it tries to give another side of the story. Because if you've read history, if you've read this part of history, so Chamberlain is accused of being following the policy of appeasement towards Germany, basically giving them what they wanted, and making giving Hitler all the power, not directly, but allowing Hitler his indulgences, which led to him becoming so powerful. And there was a time uh, in the when the World War had started, So there was a time, at least till the Battle of Dunkirk. This you, I don't know if you've seen the movie Dunkirk. It's also a very good movie. You should watch it. So by that time, it looked like Hitler is the Germany is like going to defeat both Britain and France easily. Uh, but then from there, the tides turned literally. So from there, Britain gained the upper hand, and America came into the war as well after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Before that, America was supplying weapons, but it was not actively involved in the war. So that was the thing. But yeah, this book covers another interesting thing that I forgot to tell you. So it's basically about three friends. Uh, the Paul Leggart and sorry, Hugh Leggart and Paul von Hartmann have talked about, but they had another friend. So her name was Lena. So she's in the movie as well. She plays a more prominent role in the movie. But in here, so the premise is that all of them were at Oxford. So Paul Hartmann and Lena, they were like together basically. And Lena was also German. She was Jewish German basically. So German Jewish or Jewish German. So they were together at that time, but when in 1932, but when Legat comes to Munich to visit them in 1933. So by that time they had developed an argument, and Paul, basically the German guy who was like kind of supportive of Hitler, so he thought that, and Lena was very anti Hitler, and this. The movie covers the whole the angle. I mean, I don't know if it's not exactly a love triangle or something of that sort, but it's kind of like that. So but it covers everything really well. So if you like the movie, you like the book even more actually. So and if you so basically it covers how Lena was so Paul and Lena, they broke up because of their political beliefs, and later on how Lena was captured by the Germans, the Nazis, and because she was Jewish, she was put in a concentration camp, and a lot of atrocities were committed against her, and because of that, she suffered. I think so. She suffered brain damage or some sort of a very debilitating, very bad condition. Because of that, so she was put in the camp basically. So Mm. After that, once you read it, you'll get it actually, and it's one good thing is that this book has blended history with fiction. So the leaders, the negotiation, the political decisions are all based on real historical events, and the fictional characters, they simply allow us to experience these events from a very personal, deeply personal perspective. So instead of reading about the Munich conference as it happened, we experience a lot of things. We experience uncertainty. We experience like the kind of rush basically when world events are taking place, and world leaders, how they are reacting to it, and what are the kind of negotiations that are taking place between different governments, and how people were thinking at that point of time. I mean, people in general, both in Britain and Germany, they wanted to prevent the war at any cost, the ordinary people, but how the leaders were perceiving the whole thing. And one interesting thing in this book is that it shows that Chamberlain is getting a lot of support even in Germany for being someone who's actively trying to prevent the war. But if you read history, he's actually accused of as someone of being following the appeasement politics. So this book presents a different perspective. So the author has a really remarkably accessible style. So and it's actually pretty lucid. So once you start reading it, you'll enjoy it actually. Basically, it's not as if it's very jarring or it's boring or anything of that sort. So at the same time, readers who are interested in the Second World War would appreciate the historical detail in this book, and basically it presents a different perspective. Now, is it completely true or is it completely false? That I cannot tell. I'm not an expert in history, but student basically. So I enjoy reading such books. I enjoy reading such perspectives Whether you may agree with it or not agree with it, that's a different thing altogether. So it doesn't replace the historical events, or it doesn't replace the history. It gives a new perspective to it. Now it's up to the reader whether to accept or to reject the perspective. Overall, I found this book to be actually very gripping, very beautifully researched, very intelligent, and sometimes it's shaped around a conference table with where a few signatures. I mean, the part where all the leaders are signing, that's also explained in detail. So it's actually it's pretty extensive, if I'll be very honest, and it has some really interesting quotes. Uh, um, Interesting quotes, interesting anecdotes. So once you start reading it, you'll. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And if you've already read this book, I would really like to know your perspective on what you thought about this book. Do share your opinion in the comment section. And do you think, if you think that this agreement merely delayed an inevitable war, or could diplomacy like this ever have changed the course of history? Do let us know. And again, if you've enjoyed this video, if you've come this far, if you've enjoyed this review, please like this video, share it with someone who enjoys history, and subscribe to my channel for more reviews on books on history, politics, society, culture, and literature, and anything else under the sun. Thank you for so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.